Everything begins at a moment when social media was filled with one name, Kandi. People were confused and worried because she had suddenly gone quiet. The woman who was always confident, outspoken, and smiling had disappeared from public view without any explanation. Her silence was louder than anything she had said before, and fans couldn't understand what was happening behind the scenes. Then, out of nowhere, a shocking rumor started spreading. Some people claimed that Todd might have broken her trust. Even though these were only allegations, the idea alone was heavy enough to shake her fans. For many, it didn't make sense. Kandi and Todd always looked strong, so why did her silence feel so different this time? Why did it feel like something inside her had completely changed? In this fictional retelling, we explore the emotional side of the story that people only whispered about online, but never fully understood. We dive into the feelings, the confusion, and the quiet moments that could have led Kandi to shut down. Was something truly broken between her and Todd? Was there a particular moment when everything shifted? This story is fictional, but it's told in a way that feels real, the same way people discuss these situations on gossip pages, in group chats, and on late-night live streams. The journey begins with Kandi's silence, and the hidden pain behind that silence. Before the rumors even started, people who followed Kandi closely noticed that something about her had changed. She wasn't acting like the woman everyone was used to seeing. Usually, she stayed active online, posting positive messages, business updates, or fun moments from her life. But suddenly, her posts slowed down. And when she did share something, it was never cheerful. It was always short, sad, or confusing. There were days when she posted nothing at all, which was completely unlike her. Fans began asking in comments if she was okay, but she never replied. Even at public events, where she usually walked in with confidence, she now looked distant. She smiled, but it was a small, forced smile, the kind people give when they're trying to hide something inside. People around her noticed it too. A team member mentioned that Kandi had been arriving late to meetings and leaving early. She seemed distracted, lost in her thoughts. Sometimes she would just stare at her phone for a long time, then put it down with a heavy sigh. It was clear that something was weighing on her heart. The first spark of suspicion didn't come from social media or a gossip page. It started quietly, behind the curtains of a busy backstage area. Kandi had been scheduled for a small appearance that day. Everything seemed normal. The lights, the noise, the crew. But something changed the moment she stepped into the dressing area. One of the stylists who had worked with Kandi for years noticed her mood immediately. Kandi wasn't smiling, and she wasn't joking around like she usually did. Instead, she kept looking down at her phone, almost as if she was afraid of what she might see next. At one point, she set the phone on the table, hoping to distract herself, but the phone lit up again, and that was when everything shifted. A name appeared on the screen. It wasn't a name anyone on her team recognized. It wasn't a friend, a family member, or someone from her regular circle. It was a woman's name, one that made Kandi freeze for a moment. Her expression changed in a way that was impossible to ignore. The stylist didn't hear any message or see any details, but the look in Kandi's eyes said enough. Whatever she saw hurt her deeply. Kandi picked up the phone quickly, as if she didn't want anyone else to notice. She tried to brush it off and continue getting ready, but she couldn't hide the tremble in her hands. She barely spoke for the rest of the preparation. And even though she later went out on stage and did her part professionally, people backstage whispered that she looked like she was carrying a heavy weight. That small moment, that single incoming message, became the seed of the first rumor. A few hours later, a backstage worker, trying to make sense of Kandi's sudden sadness, quietly mentioned what they had witnessed to another staff member. From one whisper to another, the story began to grow. People didn't know the whole truth, but they sensed something was off. It didn't take long for that small backstage whisper to grow into something much bigger. A few days after the incident, an anonymous page online posted a short message saying they had information about Todd's late-night activities. At first, people ignored it. Anonymous accounts often exaggerate things, but this time, the story refused to disappear. In fact, it kept getting louder. According to the rumor, Todd had been seen going out late at night more than usual. His excuse was always the same: business meetings. But the strange part was that these meetings always happened at odd hours, in places where business had nothing to do. The anonymous page claimed that Todd wasn't alone during these outings. They said he had been seen with not just one woman, but possibly multiple women over the past few weeks. No names were revealed, no photos were released. But the description was enough to shake people because it matched the timeline of when Kandi's behavior had changed. Fans started connecting dots that may not have even existed. Still, the story caught fire because the idea felt too emotional to ignore. People online speculated that Todd might have been spending time with women Kandi knew nothing about. Some commenters said the women looked like they were meeting him privately, while others claimed Todd was acting too comfortable with them. None of this was confirmed, but the way the rumor spread made it feel real in the eyes of the public. Meanwhile, those close to Kandi were becoming increasingly worried. Some of them had already noticed Todd coming home late, without giving any clear explanation. A friend mentioned that his behavior had grown distant, almost like he was hiding something. Still, nobody had any solid proof. Everything was just whispers, hints, and strange moments that didn't make sense. But the most heartbreaking part was the timing. These rumors appeared right when Kandi was struggling emotionally. People who cared about her couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, the stories were connected. If Todd truly was spending time with other women, then Kandi's silence suddenly made painful sense. And so the rumor grew, from a single message on Kandi's phone, to whispers backstage, to a full-blown online storm accusing Todd of being seen with multiple women. Whether true or not, the damage had already begun. The night that changed everything didn't begin with drama. It started like any other evening where celebrities gathered for a small, private event. Music played softly, people laughed, and everyone seemed relaxed. Kandi didn't attend that night because she had been feeling drained, so she stayed home to rest. She had no idea that this would be the evening that would break her heart in a way she never expected. Todd went to the event alone, saying it was quick networking and he wouldn't stay long. But what happened there quickly turned into the moment the entire situation took a painful turn. A friend of Kandi's, who also attended the event, later described what they saw. They said Todd wasn't acting like a man at a business gathering at all. Instead, he was standing close to a woman no one recognized. The way the two of them talked looked too personal, too comfortable. It wasn't loud or obvious, but it was intimate enough that people around them noticed. They were laughing softly, leaning in during conversation, and standing closer than friends usually do. For anyone who watched them from a distance, it looked like they shared an understanding that didn't belong to casual strangers. That same friend decided to take a few pictures, not to expose Todd, but because something felt wrong. They didn't want to believe it, but they couldn't ignore the way Todd behaved. They hesitated before sending those pictures to Kandi, but they knew she deserved to know what they saw. After returning home, they finally gathered the courage to forward the images to her. When Kandi received the message, she was sitting on her couch trying to distract herself from her worries. The moment she opened the pictures, everything inside her collapsed. Her heart began pounding. Her hands started shaking. She stared at the screen again and again, hoping she was misunderstanding what she saw. But the truth was right in front of her. Todd looked too close to another woman, and the expression on his face wasn't one of a man just handling business. She immediately called Todd, her voice calm but trembling. She asked him what the pictures meant. Todd responded quickly, saying she was overthinking, that it was nothing, just casual conversation, and that people were misreading everything. But his explanations felt weak, empty, and unconvincing. The morning after that night, Kandi felt like the weight of the world was pressing down on her. She had spent hours awake, replaying every moment in her mind, analyzing every word Todd had said. Every excuse, every explanation, every small gesture suddenly felt empty and meaningless. Her heart was heavy, and her emotions finally spilled over in a way that couldn't be hidden anymore. She canceled all of her meetings and appointments for the day. Her team was confused but knew better than to push her. Kandi retreated into a quiet room in her home, shutting the door behind her. What followed was not a dramatic scene for the world to see, but a deeply personal moment of pain. She sat quietly at first, trying to compose herself, but soon the tears began to flow. She cried for hours, the kind of crying that comes from feeling betrayed by someone you love and trust. Her mind replayed the pictures, the messages, and the moments that led to this emotional breaking point. She whispered to herself over and over, "Why would he do this? How could this happen to us?" The words were soft, barely audible, but the hurt behind them was real and raw. A member of her staff, who had stayed nearby to ensure she was okay, described the scene later. She was shaking, almost silent at first, and then the sobs came out. You could see the pain in her eyes, and even though she didn't say much, every gesture told a story of heartbreak. She kept saying, "I don't understand. I can't believe this is happening." Kandi wasn't angry, not really. Her breakdown wasn't filled with rage. It was filled with sadness, disappointment, and a sense of betrayal so deep that it felt impossible to move past. Every memory she had of trust, love, and partnership now carried the weight of doubt. Even though this was a fictional retelling, it captures the reality of how heartbreak can feel: slow, heavy, and unrelenting. Kandi's breakdown was a private storm, but it was powerful. It marked the moment when everything changed. From that point on, she could no longer ignore the questions in her heart or the doubts that had started to take root. It was in this emotional, vulnerable state that Kandi began to truly realize the depth of her pain. And it was also the moment that set the stage for the difficult decisions and confrontations that would come next. As Kandi struggled with her emotions, Todd was also dealing with the aftermath, though in a very different way. When he first heard the rumors circulating online about his alleged late-night outings and multiple women, he immediately felt defensive. He knew the story was spreading fast, and he feared it could damage both his reputation and the fragile relationship he had with Kandi. Todd reached out to a few close friends and advisors, explaining his side. According to him, the women mentioned in the rumors were actually just business partners, associates, or colleagues. He insisted that every late-night meeting had a legitimate reason, nothing personal, nothing romantic. He tried to show Kandi proof: emails, messages, and schedules, but the explanations felt incomplete, leaving gaps that made the story hard to fully believe. To the public, Todd made a statement denying all allegations. He emphasized that he respected Kandi and their relationship, and that the rumors were unfounded. But privately, he sensed the trust between him and Kandi was already strained. He wanted to convince her, to fix things, but he also realized that words alone might not be enough. Meanwhile, fans and the public were divided. Some believed Todd immediately, trusting his calm explanation and assuming Kandi was overreacting. Others felt Kandi's visible pain and her emotional breakdown were proof that Todd had done something wrong. Social media threads exploded with opinions, comments, and debates. Everyone had an opinion, but nobody really knew the truth. Todd himself felt frustrated and helpless. He hadn't intended for the situation to spiral out of control. He genuinely cared about Kandi and wanted to make things right, yet the rumors and assumptions made every conversation tense. Every attempt to explain himself seemed to create more doubts rather than clear them. In this moment, the relationship stood at a crossroads. Kandi's emotions were raw, Todd's explanations were shaky, and the outside world was watching closely. The tension was silent but heavy, and both knew that what happened next could either mend the trust or break it forever.